let's bring you some of that DC news, though, because this is significant. So remember when Senator Sanders was running for president and he would get asked about, okay, well, if you want to get Medicare for All passed, you got people like Joe Manchin, like, what are you going to do to get him on board? And he always had a ready-made answer, which is, I would go to West Virginia, I would do the rallies, I would put direct pressure on him, and, you know, that's the most effective way to try to get intransigent people on board. Well, he didn't literally go to West Virginia, but he did figuratively go there. He published an op-ed in the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Let's go ahead and throw this up on the screen. And he calls out Manchin directly. Here he says, we need every Democrat to back the Build Back Better bill. Why do they have to call it there? It's so terrible. We now have a historic opportunity to support the working families of West Virginia, Vermont, and the entire country and create policy which works for all, not just the few. Couple of things here that are interesting. He points out that poll after poll shows overwhelming support for this legislation. I looked into the numbers in West Virginia. This bill is extremely popular in West Virginia and is popular in a bipartisan way, and not just like the individual provisions. Oh, if you just ask them on this thing or you just ask them on that thing. According to Data for Progress poll, at least, it has majority support among Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So he's right on that. But this is the part that I think really, you know, kind of was meant to goad Joe Manchin here. He says, where is it? Oh, here we go. Poll after poll shows overwhelming support for this legislation, yet the political problem we face is that in a 50-50 Senate, we need every Democratic senator to vote yes. We now have only 48. 2 Democratic senators remain in opposition, including Senator Joe Manchin. So going to Senator Joe Manchin's hometown newspaper, calling him out directly. Of course, Manchin responded. Let's throw his response up there on the screen. He was a little more aggressive, I would say, than Bernie was in his. He says, this isn't the first time an out-of-stater has tried to tell West Virginians what is best for them, despite having no relationship to our state. Millions of jobs are open, supply chains are strained, and unavoidable inflation taxes are draining workers' hard-earned wages as the price of gasoline and groceries continues to climb. Senator Sanders' answer is to throw more money on an already overheated economy, while 52 other senators have grave concerns about this approach. To be clear again, Congress should proceed with caution on any additional spending, and I will not vote for a reckless expansion of government programs. No op-ed from a self-declared independent socialist is going to change that. David Serta did point out to me, this is just kind of a funny aside, that apparently Bernie won more votes in West Virginia in the 2016 primary than Manchin won in his reelect.
Oh,
so
wow.
to say he has no relationship to the state, I think is untrue. I also know the senator has been to West Virginia any number of times and has a particular interest in the state. But I mean, basically what this shows is these negotiations have gone off the rail. Manchin seems to be getting more intransigent, not less. He has now ruled out the centerpiece of the Biden sort of climate piece of the Build Back Better agenda, which was a renewable energy standard. This is the only part of it that really has teeth in terms of where climate is concerned. Let's go ahead and throw that New York Times tear sheet up on the screen. Democrats weighing now a carbon tax after Manchin rejects a key climate provision. I mean, again, this is something we've been highlighting for a long time. Manchin is the chair of the committee that was going to be tasked with writing these climate rules on a renewable energy standard. He has now said, I don't support that at all. So now they're thinking about a carbon tax. Now, I want to be fair. They have some language in this article about how they're going to try to make sure that it doesn't hurt working class people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But energy prices are already going up.
Natural gas is about to double, actually.
Natural gas prices going up. We're talking about not just at the pump, we're talking about heating your homes, all of these things. A carbon tax, a straight up carbon tax, if you don't have a lot of, mitigating loopholes and credits and things put in there to protect the working class, disproportionately hurts lower income people. This seems like a disastrous idea. And of course, the line from progressives from the beginning has been no climate, no deal. So this morning, it seems like they are even further away from having any sort of negotiated deal here than they were last week.
No, it's a good point, Krystal, and this is actually even more important. We still have not mentioned Kyrsten Sinema, who to date has been reported will not support any increase in a tax on a corporation or an individual. So that's kind of the main ball game here, and a carbon tax would 100% apply. So even if you did get Joe Manchin on board with the carbon tax, which is actually a big if, and he's spoken on both sides sides of the issue over the last several decades. There's no guarantee that Kyrsten Sinema would vote for any of that or support it.
So Sinema has previously floated a carbon tax as an alternative to taxing.
They say it whenever it comes down to voting for it. You know, it's like, are they actually going to do it? I don't think so.
Who knows? There are a million barriers here. And also Manchin, the very latest is that now he's saying, oh, for the child tax credit, it's going to have to be aggressively means tested.
Right.
No one earning more than $60K can get it. And we've got to have a hard work requirement in there. So significantly damaging, effectively, the effectiveness of that program. So that's where we are.
Right, and I think it's important to say that that is basically, and again, that is very, very far apart from people who are like Tammy Duckworth, Dick Durbin, so not, Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. Increasingly, I just see this whole thing as a morass. And the biggest problem is we've talked about this endlessly. Nobody knows what's in the damn bill, so they can fight over it endlessly. Most people do not care whatsoever about this. There's actually a significant little amount of, and when I mean significant, like the level of public consciousness around the bill is extraordinarily low. There's not a lot of people are more pissed off about gas prices than they are anything about here, and that's both a mess. That's a massive messaging failure on behalf of the Biden administration. It is also, frankly, on the it's on the media as well. They really just don't know how to cover a lot of this stuff. I mean, most people would not even tell you about Joe Manchin's positions on X, Y, and Z, what that means substantively, a means test. I mean, most people may not even know what a means test is necessarily. Sanders did talk a little bit about this on the Sunday shows of the weekend. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Again, I mean, I think, I'm not going to negotiate on TV, but I think there is going to have to be some give and take. But let's be clear. I mean, we started this process in the Senate Budget Committee, which I chair, at a $6 trillion amount, which, by the way, is the least of what we need if we are, in fact, going to transform our energy system and deal with the existential threat of climate. All right, we came down from 6 to 3.5 trillion. Okay, that is a huge, huge compromise. So I think, at the very least, in my view, we have got to be at 3.5 trillion.
So there you go, Krystal. I mean, I just increasingly see Bernie over here kind of representing one pole. I would say the majority of the Democratic caucus, probably more towards the Bernie Biden side than anywhere else. But then Manchin and Sinema, not just over, on the left side for those who are just listening, but so irreconcilably far different on the key provisions. I just don't know how it could all come together. The White House is apparently negotiating this. I mean, I don't trust them at all. They're completely incompetent, in my opinion, over the last year or so in the way that they've handled Congress. So all of that together, we do have a fun, as we've been doing these breaking points polls, we've got a fun poll to show all of you. This is my favorite one so far. Let's put this up there on the screen. Do you approve of the United States Congress? Yes, 2%. No, 94%. Unsure, 5%.
I want to talk to that 2%.
Yeah, I want to talk to that 2%
Let's interview
too.
him.
That's a 44. That's out of 44,000 respondents, and again,
they just accidentally hit the wrong button.
Yeah, probably. Remember, not scientific. Any of that. These are great fun, though. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of you engaged.
I mean, this is so when we did the Biden, the first approval rating when we did was Biden, and I think he got like 80-something%.
70-something.
Said they did not approve of him.
That's
and I was like, that's pretty bad. Then we did Kamala.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Kamala's at 89% disapproval to approve. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one is, I thought that was maybe bottoming out, but you guys feel even worse about Congress than you do about Kamala. So that was an interesting piece of information. But I think the American people have tuned this out because they don't believe that it's going to happen. I mean, I think that's it. I think there's just so much nihilism, and sadly, betting on the side of like cynicism is all too often the right bet. Biden has really screwed this up. Like there's really no excuse for it. He had a lot of different tactical and strategic approaches he could have taken. They have control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. They could have done a lot more, and they could have done it a lot faster, and they could have put a lot more pressure on these intransigent senators who, we should also be clear, like Manchin and Sinema are the ones that like to get out front and like to sort of take the incoming and take the heat. They are not the only ones who are an issue here.
That's right. Mark Warner.
Mark Warner's another.
Others.
There are others that that are basically hiding behind Manchin and Sinema because they just have a different political calculation in terms of what they think is going to benefit them. But Manchin and Sinema are not the only issue here. So it's hard to see how this all comes together. Circling back to the carbon tax thing and the climate stuff, I mean, progressives, the one thing they said, they haven't been clear really about any of their red lines in terms of the dollar amount or which programs have to be in or how they want to approach this. And they've been pushing for, hey, let's keep as many programs as possible and we can just limit the time on it. That's been the approach that they've favored in terms of negotiations. But the one thing they have said from the beginning is no climate, no deal. And Joe Manchin has basically just said, no climate. So take from that what you will.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.